Hey, this is going to be your Atom Basics review. You can use this for your grade 9 review, for your studying for your exam, or you can do this or watch this before grade 10 chemistry unit. But I just know that this is a very exciting unit. This is a very interesting unit that actually ties everything in that we know about science or your universe or different planets. The things that we have, such as this pen, is made up of basically atoms all combined with each other. My fingernails, it's a protein, but proteins are made up of atoms. My hair, not that much of it, but it's still makeup. They still um, made up of atoms. So everything that we have is made up of atoms, such as even water, the drinks that we drink, orange juice, the stuff in our bodies like our glucose or hormones or protein, everything's made up of atoms. So this is actually a really basic thing that actually has a bigger picture. So this is a very awesome unit to learn about. So this is just going to be about the basics video, the first video of just talking about what atoms, but the structure of atoms. So you might have seen these pictures before. So these are your two different ones. And let me just get my pen here. And these ones are going to be basically pictures that you have seen. So in an atom, you would have something that's called a nucleus. So you might have heard of this nucleus word in a cell. Well, nucleus, it means in the center. And in the nucleus, you have protons and neutrons. And these are two different things. And these two elementary particles actually tell you a lot of properties about your atom. And outside, on the outside, you might have seen like these rings around atoms. For simplicity's sake, this is what atoms will look like with rings and your electrons kind of going around and around in rings. But in reality, actually, you can't really see the electrons in going around rings. They just kind of appear in this little orbit, like here and there kind of deal. You'll learn more about that later on. But I guess to simplicity's sake, we just have to know that electrons on the outside, and from the nucleus to the electrons, this is just a bunch of empty spaces that it's not really filled. It's not like it's an electric field or anything like that, or there's things that it's moving through or tracks moving through. It's just empty spaces, and electrons are just found on the outside. So to really know the basics of an atom, you need to know your three elementary particles. So elementary particles, number one, these ones are your protons, and then you also have your electrons. And in addition to electrons, you have your neutrons. Your protons, this can be easily found on your periodic table. Protons, if you know, or if you look at the letter P, well, it just stands for positive. So protons are your positive ones. And if you have anything that's positive, you also have to counteract it. So to counteract it, you will have your electrons, which are your negative charges. Any neutral atom without any charges, it will tell you about the charge. So if an atom is positive, then that has an overall positive charge. If it's negative, it has an overall negative charge. But if it is neutral, there's no overall charge, you will have the same amount of positives and negative. Neutral doesn't mean that you have none. It just means that you have the same amount. So if you have 5 protons, then you have 5 electrons. If you have 10 protons, you have 10 electrons. That's a neutral one. And then finally, your last one, this one always seems to be the confusing one because it's a neutral one and it's the no charge one. You might even have heard of the joke where your protons, electrons, and neutrons walk in a bar, and protons ask for a drink, and then the bartender gives them a price, and the electrons ask for a drink, and the bartender gives them a price. But then when the neutron asks for a drink, the bartender says no charge because neutrons have no charge. So neutrons have no charge. So what's the meaning of neutrons? Neutrons actually provide the weight of your atom, no, the mass of your atom in addition to protons. So what the neutrons will do is that you can see from this picture in the nucleus, nucleus has protons and neutrons. So in order to understand your atomic mass, atomic mass, and also your electrons, you need to see and know how to read the periodic table. So your periodic table of elements basically showcases all the elements in our universe, basically, because whatever happens on Earth you would find the same elements somewhere else. Just like helium and hydrogen, you can find that in our solar system. And that's a pretty unique thing because, man, whatever we find on Earth, we can find this elsewhere. And the combinations of these different elements actually form all your different compounds, from your plastic to your the metals that you have on your laptop, to the different solutions like water or even sugar solution. That's all based on the different combinations of these different elements. So to give you an example, we can use carbon. Carbon has this whole number at the top, which is 6, and there's this decimal number at the bottom, which is 12.0107. This 6 number is your atomic number. This atomic number can tell you two things. So your atomic number can, number one, tell you where it is on the periodic table. Number two, second thing it can tell you is that it is actually the number of protons that you have. So how many protons would you find in carbon? Well, because it's 6, then you would have 6 protons. And remember what I said from before from having a neutral atom? Well, if you just take an atom here, carbon has 6 protons. In a neutral carbon atom, you would have the same amount to counteract all these protons, right? So if you have 6 positive protons, a neutral one would also have 6, oh, not neutrons, 6 electrons, which are your negative charges. So you have 6 positive, 6 negatives, gives you overall 0 charge, which is your neutral. So how do we get the number of neutrons? Well, we have to look at this decimal number right here. This one, your decimal number is your atomic mass. And atomic mass, the equation for what atomic mass is really the number of your protons plus number of neutrons. If you remember from the previous diagram, check it out. In the middle, you have your protons, you have your neutrons. That makes up your mass. The electrons are so light that we don't even attribute that to your atomic mass. So we're just going to look at your neutrons and protons. So if you know that you have 6 protons, so you have the 6 protons right here, plus number of neutrons. We don't know the number of neutrons. Do we know the atomic mass? Yeah, we do. It's right here, this decimal number. So your atomic mass is 12.0107. So in order to find your number of neutrons, what do? Well, this is an equation. So you subtract 6 on this side, you subtract 6 on this side. So to round this off, basically you have 6 is equal to your number of neutrons. Okay, so basically you calculate the number of neutrons from knowing the atomic mass to a number of protons. So to recap, your number of protons can tell you a couple of things. Where it is on the periodic table, because your periodic table is a line from your atomic number. And your atomic number can tell you the number of protons. By knowing the number of protons in a neutral atom, you know the number of electrons because they will be exactly the same. Your atomic mass, on the other hand, the bottom decimal number, this one can tell you the total of protons plus neutrons. So since you have the atomic mass here, and also since you have the number of protons, you can just solve this equation to get the number of neutrons. That's it. So to give you another example, let's look at oxygen. We have 8 protons from the atomic number, and since it's neutral, we have 8 electrons. Let's look at the number of neutrons. Can we calculate that? Well, the atomic mass here is, let's round it up to 16. So atomic mass is 16.00. This is equal to your 8 protons plus, not equals, plus number of neutrons. I know it's getting a little bit messy. Well, to solve for number of neutrons, you minus 8 here, minus 8 protons, then you get 8 is equal to number of neutrons. So there are 8 neutrons in oxygen. You might think that, oh, well, I have 8, 8, and 8, and it seems like it's all the same. But as you go down the periodic table, the mass would change, and the number of neutrons will be actually different. Number of neutrons actually give you the different isotopes that we will have in different elements, which we'll talk about later in another later video. But this is just the basics of the atom, and one really good video I'm going to show you right here, I hope my finger is pointing in the right direction, is from an old sitcom clip, and which which actually explains all three of these ones quite well in a way that you'll probably remember. So stay tuned for the next video.
I can give you the basics of the atom in 2 minutes. You'll understand it perfectly and remember it for months.
2 minutes? You're crazy, you know that?
If I can teach you about the atom in 2 minutes, will you go back to school and finish out the year? How about it, huh? Come on, you're a betting man. How about it, Arnold?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, sure. You got it.
I got your word?
Yeah, you got my word. In 2 minutes.
We got a deal.
Yeah, we got a deal.
All right, sit down.
Okay.
Okay. There are 3 gangs on the street, right?
Yeah, 3 gangs.
And this right here is the territory. Now, here is the neighborhood. Got that?
Yeah.
And right in the middle of this neighborhood is a gang called the New Boys.
Yeah, the New Boys. Good name.
Okay. Out here on the outside of the neighborhood, on the edge of the neighborhood, is another gang. You know, these are real negative dudes, really negative, right?
Right.
Now, they call themselves the elected ones.
All right, the elected.
You got that? Really negative. They don't like nothing, see?
Right.
Now, they all the time out here circling around the neighborhood, just circling, you know? Checking out the New Boys. Now, the New Boys see this, and they get, you know, they figure there's something wrong here, so they make a deal with another gang. A gang of very happy-go-lucky guys. They call themselves the Pros. The Pros. Now, the Pros are very positive cats. You see, they got all the good-looking women, right?
Yeah.
Right. See, now the Pros and the elected ones, the interesting thing, they hate each other. So much so that they keep the same number of members in the gang, just in case, you dig?
Right.
So if I got 10 elected ones, how many Pros do I have?
10.
All right. Now, how many gangs do I have?
3.
Name them.
The New Boys, the elected ones, and the Pros.
All right. Who's here?
The elected ones?
All right. Now, what are they, negative?
Yeah, negative.
All right. Now, who's positive?
The Pros, and you running out of time.
All right. Now, you see right here, the Pros and the New Boys, they call their hangout the nucleus. Yeah. Now, see, that's a real tough word. It's Latin. But I kind of think it's Swahili, and it means center.
Yeah? What is it?
It's nucleus. Say it.
Nucleus. Is that really African?
Say it.
Nucleus.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right. Give you another Swahili word. It's tron. Yeah, it means dude.
Yeah, Tron. Dude.
All these gangs like that name so well that they all decide to use it. For instance, the Pros right here in the middle start calling themselves the protons. And the New Boys, well, they start calling themselves the neutrons. And out here on the edge here, the elected ones, they start calling themselves the
The electrons, the protons, and the neutrons.
Yeah. And all this right here, this is the neighborhood. This is block after block of nothing. You understand block after block of nothing, don't you, Arnold?
Yeah, I know all about that. And your time is up, Professor DJ.
Good. I was finished anyway. Now you go on back to school now.
School? Man, all I know about is a bunch of damn gangs that live in a round neighborhood.
Arnold, that's the atom. That's it, man. That's it. What's this right here? Huh?
Protons and neutrons.
All right, and they call this the what?
Nucleus.
All right, what are these guys up here?
Electrons.
Are they negative or positive?
Negative.
And how do they move?
Round and round.
And if I got 2 of them, how many protons do I have?
2.
Now, protons negative or positive?
Positive.
All right, and what's all this right here?
Oh, that's the neighborhood.
Which is?
Nothing.
You got it, man. You get an A.